The Utah governor has confirmed the arrest of 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, the suspected killer of Charlie Kirk, the right-wing activist and close ally of Donald Trump. The authorities said that Robinson was turned in by a family member and a friend of Robinson after the 22-year-old suggested he had been responsible for the shooting. Charlie Kirk was shot at an event at a university in Utah on Wednesday. The authorities quickly released these CCTV stills of someone they described as a person of interest. And then this video footage of an individual running across a rooftop at the university, then climbing and jumping down to the ground before escaping across the university grounds and then into a wooded area. Utah State University have confirmed that Tyler Robinson is a former student who briefly attended the university in 2021. Let's cross now to Washington and to our North America correspondent Arunade Mukherjee. And Arunade, begin if you would by just taking us through the key points from that news conference in the last few hours in Utah.
Well, the news conference, Anita, was addressed by the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, along with other officials, and the FBI chief, Kash Patel. And I think this was the first time that we're getting a lot more detail about the incident and also about the person who they believe was behind the shooting, identified as Tyler Robinson, 22-year-old. They talked about a lot of logistical aspects that they had managed to understand by way of their investigation so far, what vehicle he had arrived at the university campus in, what kind of clothes he was wearing, and also the kind of conversations that he had had with his family members prior to the murder of Charlie Kirk. Now, this is all by way of Governor Cox, where he referred to a conversation that the family members of Mr. Robinson had had with the investigators, where he essentially said that the suspect's family told investigators that Tyler Robinson had become, quote, more political in recent years. He also referred to a dinner table conversation that was happening in which Mr. Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk and talked about the fact that he was coming to Utah Valley University, and also elaborated on why he didn't like him and the viewpoints he had. He told the family member reportedly that Mr. Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate, according to Governor Cox. So he was referencing the conversations that the family members had with the investigators, which shed a little more light about this person who they have in custody. It is, however, also important to underscore here that they clearly have not spelt out a motive behind the killing, but they have talked about the other details that they have managed to get by way of their investigation so far. The other important aspect in terms of recoveries, as we heard yesterday, they had made that recovery of a weapon. They also today spelt out some more details about the the unfired bullet casings that they had, which essentially one of them talked about, one of them had the phrase, "Hey, fascist, catch." One of them had the phrase, "Oh, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao." So they gave some more details about what they had recovered. They have 3 days now in Utah to press charges, and essentially the legal process will now be commencing. We also heard the governor there in a very emotional speech and address to the press, where he talked about how this was a watershed moment in America. And also we heard the FBI chief sort of fending off, some questions that have been raised about the investigation so far and the pace of the investigations, and how he highlighted that they'd managed to press in all their machinery and they'd managed to achieve this breakthrough in what he called was record time.
And briefly, if you would, Arunade, remind us of why Charlie Kirk was so important to President Trump and indeed to other members of his administration.
Well, he was one of the most foremost conservative political commentators here in the country. He ran an organization, a not-for-profit organization called Turning Point USA, which he started in 2012 when he was 18 years old, which has a presence in over 800 college campuses. He was very close to the Trump administration, to Donald Trump himself, who in fact referred to Charlie Kirk as like a son. You've seen the kind of emotional responses that we've seen coming out of the top brass of the Trump administration. Flags are flying at half-mast. You've got Trump recommending him for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. You had J.D. Vance using his aircraft, Air Force Two, to carry his coffin back to his home state of Arizona. So that's the kind of response that we've got. But, he's someone who is seen to be, his political commentary seems to have been resonating with the younger generation of the country, especially at college campuses around the country, which he believed were liberal-leaning, where he sort of used his conservative ideas to spread that message, which is why he managed to get a lot of crowds there at all of his gatherings. He encouraged debate about some very contentious issues, which he talked about, like transgender identity, climate change, faith, and family, which is also why he was also a fairly divisive figure, talked about a lot, but his ideas were in line with Donald Trump's brand of politics that he's practiced, and also his involvement in Donald Trump's campaign for presidential elections last year is also important, where he managed to mobilize a huge youth support as well, and many say that he managed to swing the state of Arizona in favor of Donald Trump as well.
Arunade, thank you very much. Arunade Mukherjee. Well, at that news conference in the last couple of hours, Utah's Governor Spencer Cox explained how investigators found the suspect. Take a listen.
We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th, in which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th, in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with those surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson. Investigators interviewed that roommate, who stated that his roommate, referring to Robinson, made a joke on Discord. Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits.